Why do I stand up here? Anybody?
Feel taller.
No. Thank you for playing, Mr. Dalton. I stand upon my desk to remind myself that we must constantly look at things in a different way. See, the world looks very different from up here. You don't believe me? Come see for yourselves. Come on. Come on. Just when you think you know something, you have to look at it in another way. Even though it may seem silly or wrong, you must try. Now, when you read, don't just consider what the author thinks. Consider what you think. Boys, you must strive to find your own voice. Because the longer you wait to begin, the less likely you are to find it at all. Thoreau said most men lead lives of quiet desperation. Don't be resigned to that. Break out. Don't just walk off the edge like lemmings. Look around you. There you go, Mr. Christie. Thank you. Yes. Dare to strike out and find new ground.
Hey everyone, my name is Nicole, and today I wanted to talk to you about the topic of using your voice. It's an interesting topic for me of all people to be talking about because it's not something that I enjoy doing. In general, I'm a very quiet person. I cannot stand being in front of people. I hate attention, and I absolutely hate being stared at with a passion. So it's an interesting topic for me to be talking about because of all that. However, that is what made me want to talk about it in the first place. If you'll notice in that clip I showed you near the end, the character that Robin Williams is playing states the quote, "You must strive to find your voice because the longer you wait to begin, the less likely you are to find it at all." And I found a lot of truth in that quote. Now, I've just noticed that over time, if you'll notice, a lot of people who just didn't really speak up, they didn't use their voice, they didn't say what mattered to them, they didn't say what they thought, they just kind of end up going through life and they're still years down the road afraid to use their voice. They're afraid of what people will think if they do state what they think. They're afraid of what people will say if they say, "Hey, this is what I think about such and such," or "This is what I believe in." And they just kind of get really concerned about what people think if they do use their voice. On the flip side, I have also noticed that people who from a very young age were taught to use their voice, were taught to state their opinion even if other people may not like it, they end up being really good at doing that in real life. And all the way into adulthood, they just become people that other people's opinions just don't matter to them as much because they're like, I was given a voice, I'm going to use my voice, other people may not like it, but that's not my problem. I wasn't given a voice to just let it sit there and do nothing. And in using your voice, there's two things I want to talk about. The first would be speaking up when you don't care for the attention. And the second would be sharing your opinion, even if others may not like it. And my first thing that I've realized about using your voice is speaking up even if you don't like the attention. Now, like I said before, I'm the type of person that I don't like the attention at all. It bothers the heck out of me. I don't know, from a young age, I've just always hated it. And so, in general, I had always tried to avoid any situation where I would have been forced to do that. And due to always having these situations where I was put in front of people, I got used to it, but I never really enjoyed it, and it never stopped freaking the heck out of me. It always did. When being in front of people, it scared me so much to the point where if I was holding my phone, such as this, my hand would be shaking so badly that I would have to either put it down, otherwise I would drop it. Because my hand was shaking so bad, I had no grip on it. So, as you probably realize by now, I'm not the type to enjoy being in front of people, which again makes it interesting that I'm talking about using your voice, because it's not something I enjoy doing. However, I've learned that when it comes to using your voice, it's absolutely necessary, because like that quote I shared with you said, if you just wait around and wait around for years thinking, oh, I'll use it one day, one day will keep being one day, and it'll just be like later, 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 and that later date never comes any sooner. It just keeps being later. And so it's because of that the sooner you try to find your voice, the better off you will be, because then you won't be worried years later, being like, hey, what are other people going to think if I start using my voice? Because it just won't matter to you. And the second thing I've realized when it comes to using your voice is to state your opinion whether others like it or not. Despite the quiet individual I am, this is the part I'm actually really good at. If you were to ask anyone who knows me, they would tell you I am the blunt one of the group. I grew up basically having people not really tell me what I needed to hear. Partially people were afraid to, and then partially people just decided they wouldn't. So I grew up not knowing a lot of things that I should have known. There were a lot of times I had things going on which could have been helped if someone had just said, hey, so I've noticed there's this thing going on and perhaps you should work on it. No one ever said that to me. So I just went on year after year thinking that I was alright. Come to find out about 8 years later, when one of my friends finally does tell me that I have some stuff going on that I need to deal with. Why didn't anyone tell me this before? Why did no one speak up? Why did no one say, hey, you should work on this? But no one decided to do that. Everyone decided to keep quiet when they've noticed something that they needed to say. And thus, for about 8 years, I went on not knowing that I had stuff I needed to work on because no one told me, and I was completely oblivious to it. The result of that is I am now slightly on the blunt side, and by slightly I mean extremely. And it's because of all those years of people not saying what I needed to be told that I became very blunt, because it became very important to me that if I noticed something that needed to be said, that I would say it, which is how I became the very blunt person that I am today. And so with that, that's just kind of how I learned to state your opinion, even if others may not like it. Despite being the quiet, I'm more blunt than I am outspoken, because I'm not really one to throw in my opinion there. If people ask, of course I will tell them with complete 100% honesty, but I'm not one to just throw it in there. However, that is how I became the very blunt person I am today, because at some point it became very important to me to say what I think. It became important that if someone had something going on that I noticed that no one else did, I would say something. It became important that if the truth needed to be said and no one else would say it, that I would be the one to do it. And using my voice just became very important to me in that aspect. I can't still say that I always do it, because like I said, I just hate being in front of people. I hate attention. I don't like having eyes on me at all. Like, I'm a very, very behind the scenes person. That's just my personality. But it became important to me to speak the truth. And I couldn't do that if I wasn't using my voice. One thing I've learned about using my voice is a point about perspective. As you saw in that movie clip I showed you, Robin Williams' character, who plays an English teacher, has all of the students come up. He has them stand on a desk. He's like, okay, stand up here on this desk and look at how the world is from up here. Look at how it is from up here as opposed to how it is from down here. And he calls up his class. You saw every single one of them. They stand up at the desk, look around, and jump down. And he shows them this point about perspective, about how you always have to look at things in a different way. And I apply this to using my voice because for all those years that I didn't use my voice, I was just looking at things in one way. I was looking at things in the way of, I don't want to use my voice because I don't want attention. I don't want people staring at me. I'm worried about what they're going to think. But it wasn't until I decided to change my perspective, switch how I thought about this, and decide that the sooner I stopped caring what people thought, the better off I would be, that I got to the point where I may not have always been comfortable using my voice. I may not have always wanted to. In fact, every time I've had to use my voice, I can say I haven't wanted to, but it got to the point where I was actually willing to, because I just realized, like the quote said, the longer you wait to find your voice, the less likely you're gonna be to find it at all. So, I decided to start speaking up. I decided to start using these things in my throat called vocal cords and actually say something. It's still a process I'm working on today. I can't say I'm always there. However, I can say that when it comes to speaking, I have opened up very much, as opposed to previously, the previous where my hand was shaking so bad that my phone would fall out of it when I had to speak in front of people, whereas now, shake a little, but not quite as much. And so, in this video, my point is just to encourage you to use your voice. It's there for a reason. You weren't given it to stay quiet. If it was, then you wouldn't have been given a voice at all. And I don't really want to see all of you go throughout your life never using your voice, because someone could need it. Just like I shared in my story how I needed someone to speak up. I needed someone to say, hey, I've noticed that you have these issues going on and you should probably be working on them. No one said that, so I didn't know I needed to work on them until 8 years later. And I just couldn't stand that. And so I decided that I would start speaking up. I would start using my voice when I need to set. I don't always use it, but when there are the times that I feel like I need to use it, I do. And I have found that using your voice and just not caring what people think if you use your voice is a lot better for you, and honestly a lot more fun than if I were to just be like, you know what, I'm not going to use my voice, just leave me alone, just let me read my book by this tree. And so I just want to leave you with that today. You have a voice. I hope you start using it.